Check your surroundings. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 299 of the Shower Podcast, the podcast where I'm in my shower and you do you. I'm your host, Chip, and welcome to the second and last episode of the Weekend Drop, the shorter version of the Shower Podcast, where every weekend we talk about the small changes that make a big difference. Before we start, as usual, if you end up liking this episode, remember the liking and subscribing really mean a lot for me. They're just one click, but they really, really make the difference. Thank you very much for considering it. Today, I want to show you a trick that doesn't rely on discipline, motivation, or even planning, as we saw in the last episode. It's about shaping your surroundings. You see, most of us assume that behavior comes from willpower. That the reason we don't work out, read, or eat better is because we're lazy or distracted. But psychologists have known for decades that our environment plays a far bigger role than we realize. A study from Duke University found that nearly 45% of what we do every day isn't a conscious decision. It's a habit triggered by cues around us. The chair you sit in, the sound of your phone, the smell of your kitchen, they all nudge you toward actions you've already learned. So today's idea is this. If your habits are built by cues, then you can engineer those cues to work for you, not against you. Let's start small. Think about the last time you reached for your phone without meaning to. You didn't decide to. Your brain saw the cue. The screen lighting up, the vibration, maybe just the sight of it on the table. That's environmental conditioning in action. Now imagine if the same principle worked in your favor. If every time you walked into your kitchen, you saw a bowl of fruit instead of a bag of chips. If your running shoes were placed next to your bed instead of in the closet. Or, even simpler, if the book you want to read was on your pillow instead of hidden in a drawer. James Clear popularized this concept in Atomic Habits, but it started long before him, from researchers studying how environmental design can subtly influence behavior. Small cues can reshape actions, often without you even realizing it. Your environment isn't neutral. It's a quiet negotiator constantly pulling you in one direction or another. And here's where it gets interesting. Environmental cues don't just influence action, they influence identity. In 2012, a study published in the Journal of Consumer Research found that people surrounded by visual reminders of their goals, like gym gear, books, or work materials, were far more likely to see themselves as the kind of person who does those things. And that's powerful, because once your brain connects "I do this" with "this is who I am," the habits start to reinforce itself. So, instead of fighting bad habits head-on, a smarter strategy is to simply make the right ones easier to start. Make them visible, convenient, obvious. Because every environment you build, from your desk to your kitchen to your digital spaces, is either shaping you toward the person you want to become or slowly pulling you away from it. What's even more fascinating is that this applies both ways. The same cues that build good habits can also maintain bad ones. That's why researchers at Cornell University showed that people who kept snacks or sugary drinks in sight consumed up to 70% more calories per day than those who stored them out of view. The difference wasn't hunger, it was visibility. The cue triggered the craving. So, if you've been trying to change a pattern, maybe to scroll less, work out more, or sleep better, it's not just about removing temptation. It's about replacing it with something that makes the new habit effortless to begin. Move the cue, and the behavior follows. So, here's your challenge for this weekend. Pick one small area in your life, your workspace, your room, your phone screen, and redesign it to the person you want to become. Remove one cue that triggers what you don't want, and add one that supports what you do. It sounds simple, but this is how behavior truly changes, not only through constant effort, but through usage of smart design. Because If your environment is whispering the right things to you every single day, you won't need to force good habits. You'll just live with them. Having said that, that was all for today. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you also enjoyed this episode of the Weekend Drops. I have to say that I also enjoy doing them. They're quite refreshing, staying in theme with the podcast way of tackling ideas, problems, and just shaping them in a bit more structured way. If you made it so far, thank you very much again for listening. Feel free to interact with this content in any way, shape, or form. Liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing, whatever you do, it's always welcome. And as usual, stay consistent, stay resilient. This was the Shower Podcast, and I'll see you tomorrow.